So like I was saying, there was a church that needed some direction. They needed a vision. And so what they wanted to do was, they were a typical church that has had a great past, where they've had a lot of people come to their church, but all of a sudden their attendance was going down, 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 kind of like most churches. You go on a roller coaster ride. But it's been a long roller coaster ride down, and they were really thinking about this, and now they were probably numbering about 60 or 70 people in their church, typically, and sometimes they would hit 100. But what they thought about was, there's a college right across the street from them. And they thought, man, if they could start a college ministry in their church, wow, they could be reaching their community and do some amazing and great things through the college that's right across the street from them. And what an idea. The people just thought, you know what, if we could ever get one of those college ministries started. Nothing ever took place with it. Everybody thought it was a great idea, but no one, not one person, really stood up to take on that college ministry. Pretty much like a lot of churches. Everybody has a lot of great ideas, but nobody really does it. It kind of kills the church. Whenever I'm a visionary, and I do have ideas about where God's leading us. God obviously has shown me a lot of good things that we can do, but it does take faith to get up out of your seat and go do it. And that's what a lot of people criticize me and my family and the others that are with us, because of our ability to go out and do things that we can't afford to do. We walk by faith, not by sight. It's one of those things that you realize that if God's called you to do it, He's going to provide every single thing that you need to accomplish it. So whenever God gives you a vision or a dream, you go out and do it, and you expect God to do it. Why? Because He called you. Why would He call you and not equip you to do what He's called you to do? So whenever you go out with that attitude, you are going to accomplish something. However, literally nothing's going to happen except for what? Well, I remember back when we had that great idea to start that college ministry. That was a great idea. It's always been an idea. It's never actually been a project or something that actually takes place. Within the church, we can see that we shoot ourselves in the foot sometimes, because a lot of times we've put our faith in the wrong place. The reason we don't do a lot of stuff, I'll tell you, the reason the church does not move forward on a lot of things is because, you can probably guess, how much cash we have. We don't have enough money. Second thing is what? Enough people, enough helpers. You think that's more than the money? Okay. Okay, all right. And they're very close. I'll give it that. They are very close. We don't have enough money, we don't have enough people, or we don't have enough people, we don't have enough money. Either way, same excuses. Within many churches that are dying, it's the same excuse. Not enough people, not enough money. Not within our power. We can't achieve it. We can't do it. It's way beyond our reach. We cut ourselves down before we even give it a shot. You know, if your kids were to say that in school, what would you tell them? We don't say that around here. You get in school and you do good. You can do it. But in the church, we say, yeah, we can't really do it. What happens in our own lives and in the church should be that we put more faith in our God. This church that wanted to go out and do the college ministry, you know, no one did it. It's interesting, though. There was a man, I believe his name was Ed. Ed was going to that college. And Ed had been a Christian way back when he was growing up. But he had started going back into the world and doing worldly things. And he just got caught up in doing stuff that wasn't, in God's eyes, righteous or the right thing to do. So he started being whoever he wanted to be. As he was walking further and further away from God, and he's in college, he finally said, you know what? I'm going back. And I'm going to go to church. I'm finally going to get back because my life is not going the way I want it. In fact, my life is so bad, I know the only person that can fix my life is God Himself. And I'm going to church. And guess what? There's a little church right across the street, and I'm going to go to that church. On Sunday morning, Ed walked into that church. He was wearing a T-shirt with some jeans that had holes in them. And he didn't have any shoes on. He walked in the church that everybody was sitting around wearing their suits and their ties, bringing their Bibles. They had probably had their iPods and iPads out as well. all ready to listen to the sermon. But the music was being played, the choir was singing, the people were standing and waving their hands. Oh, it was a beautiful place, is what I had thought. However, even though they only had 100 and so people, they didn't put out many chairs. They only put out enough chairs, really, for the people that were there. So whenever he walked through the doors, he looked around to see where he could sit, and he realized there was no chairs in the back. So he started walking up and made his way towards the front. And he looked around, and sure enough, the church really, compared to the number of seats that were there, it was a packed church. Every eye in that place was looking at Ed and his T-shirt and his jeans with the holes and no shoes. He really wasn't dressed for what he was coming to, because everybody else was in their nice suit and tie and dressed up ready for what we would call church. When he looked around and he saw that there was no place to sit, the worst thing happened. He sat right in the floor, crossed his legs, and sat there to worship and listen to the pastor as he was going to begin to preach very soon. The congregation, dropping their hands from the praise and worship, saw him sitting on the floor. And oh man, the expressions began to change. The feeling of the Holy Spirit began to leave that place. And sure enough, one of the oldest members of that church, from the very back, got up walking with his cane, and his name is John. John made his way across the floor. You could see it on his face. He was focused on where he was headed, right where Ed was sitting. The congregation looked, and they're all with that intense, uncomfortable feeling as John, we know John as he's dressed in his suit and his tie and his cane and that walk. We knew John's going to handle this for us. The pastor got up there and did the best job he could. He got up there and began to start the service, and he saw John walking towards that man, and he just knew, you know what? This is going to be an interesting service today. He started out with a word of prayer. That didn't stop John. John continued to walk up there as the pastor was praying. You know, whenever I think about that story, it reminds me of what Paul says. Paul in 1 Corinthians 9, starting at verse 19. 1 Corinthians 9, verse 19 says, "For though I am free from all men, I have made myself a slave to all, so that I may win more." Paul had a mission to do, and that was to reach the lost. Paul had a calling on his life, and that was to go out and win some. He said, I want to go out and even win more. So what? I am free to do what I want to, but guess what? I am in the ministry to go out, and I'm going to reach the lost. I'm going to win them to Christ. To the Jews, I became as a Jew. Man, listen to what Paul says. I changed my demeanor. I go into their area, and now he doesn't say that I become a sinner like the sinners. No, we can't go there. You know what? They're drinking alcohol, getting drunk, getting stoned. He doesn't say that. He's talking about for their cultural ways and for the things they do. He doesn't go there and disgrace what they're doing. He goes there for the Jew. I became a Jew so that I might win Jews. He went there. He learned their customs. You know, one of the things when you go to Israel, it's a good thing to know the customs over there. To know what they do. You know, Saturday would not be a good day for you to plan to go shopping. Just a hint. You know, so you become as one of them. Why? So they understand, you know what? You're not trying to knock them down. You're not trying to go against what they do. This is their area. You're going within what they do on a normal basis. So you know what? You're just showing them some respect. You're not sinning. If they go out and sacrifice to idols, you don't go sacrifice to idols. That's not what it's talking about. If they go out and they do ungodly things, that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about treat them in respect and love them the way they are. Why? So that they see how much you care, and through that they see compassion. And where is that compassion coming from? Why do you love me so much? Why do you treat me so well? Let me tell you why. Because of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It's because of His love that I can show you love that I wouldn't have felt before ever. Well, he says, as the Jew, I became a Jew so that I might win Jews. To those who are under the law, as under the law, though not being myself under the law, so that I might win those who are under the law. To those who are without the law, as without the law. He doesn't go around and tell the Gentiles how to live like the Jews. He doesn't go in and say, oh, this is the way the Jews do it. We need to do it that way. What are you talking about? See, we don't take it and say, I have a lot of people come to our church. This is the way our church does it. But you're not at that church. You're at this church. When you walk into the doors of this church, you're at this church. You can tell me how the church down the street does it. I know people that come and tell me, well, the way that they project the scenery in the background is not like the way you do it. You know what? It's great, but don't use it against us. Because if you liked everything that you liked from that church, you know what? Go back to that church. That church will welcome you back, I'm sure. Here, people come and tell us how to do our ministry because we serve food to the poor and the homeless, and we take care of people that are in need. And man, people come in here, and it's uncomfortable for the way that people come in sometimes because they come in noisy. They make a lot of noise when they come in sometimes because they haven't been raised in a church family. They come in the church and they start greeting everybody on the left and the right and in the middle. And now I understand if you've been a Christian for your life, you would know not to come in here and do that. And if I see you doing it, I'll probably say to you, you know what, that's probably disrupting the service. But if we get someone that comes off the streets, and you know what, the fact that they walk through those doors should be welcoming for them. Man, come on in. You know what, you made a little noise. That didn't hurt us because what? We are going to win that person to Jesus Christ. Now, once they accept Christ in their life and they want to know more about you know what? We can also tell them about respecting the fact when the pastor's up speaking or the event's going on because we don't want to take away from the Word of God. Yes, but you know what? When a person comes in and they don't understand, you know what? We don't have to throw the book at them. He says, so without the law, though not being without the law of God, but under the law of Christ, so that I might win those who are without the law. To the weak I became weak, and that I might win the weak. I became all things to all men, so that I may be by all means save some. I do all things for the sake of the gospel, so that I may become a fellow partaker of it. John and I were talking about this subject earlier, and so were others throughout the weeks. How much can we get away with sin? How much can we do things? Because that's really a denominational fine line. What can we get away with? What can we do? You know what? If we just take this right here and say, what? If we are taking this for all things for the sake of the gospel, you know what? That clarifies a lot in our life. Whatever I did today, how did it affect the gospel being spread to the lost? Whatever I did today, what did the people see in me? Did they see the gospel of Jesus Christ, or did they see something else? When I was being almost ran over in the parking lot this morning, fortunately, someone saw that and actually posted it on Facebook, and they didn't say that I was a bad pastor. That's good because I think I felt like it at the time. I wanted to say some things that I knew I shouldn't say. How about that? I'm about to get ran over by a car. But no, I didn't. Why? You don't respond the way the flesh wants you to respond. You respond in the way of the love of Jesus Christ. You get out of the way of the car, obviously, but you also know that the person in that car, you give them the vision of Jesus Christ in you. And that's what, hopefully, I represented Christ well today. And anyway, so continue on at verse 23. I do all things for the sake of the gospel. You ought to keep that as your motto, and so that you understand. Well, what can I do right, and what can I do? What can I do in my life? For the sake of the gospel, do what's right, so that I may become a fellow partaker of it. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win. Paul is using this illustration to the people that back in the sense of the early Olympics. They understood racing. They understood what it was like, and whenever he's talking to these people, they understood what it was like to be in competition with others. And there's people that come in last, and he's saying, you know what? When you are a Christian and you are trying to reach the lost and you are trying to live a life that is like Jesus Christ, he goes, do it as if you want to be the first person. Be the winner. Yeah, you can come in last and still be a Christian, but he's saying, don't go in with it like that. Go in it with the same enthusiasm as you would to train and equip for a race or Olympics that are coming up. You would train day and night and breathe it, eat it, look at, do the best you could to prepare for the Olympics or a race coming up, right? And he's saying, do the same thing for your Christian life. Prepare for it. Get ready. He said, run in such a way that you may win. Everyone who competes in the game exercises self-control in all things. Saying everybody's preparing, everybody's exercising the self-control. Then they then do it and receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. When at the end of the time, back then they gave the wreaths over them as the winner. He's saying that's perishable. What they're going to receive for running that race and winning it, they're going to receive a reward for that. But it's going to perish away. But look at all the time and energy they put into it. The same thing with growing this church. You know what? If we want people to come to this church, we need to be out on the streets telling them. You know what? We need to, and I'm not going to put this down because I think we do great in helping the homeless and helping the low income. But man, we still have a lot of motel families out there that we haven't reached. Joey and Tabitha? Oh, yeah. That's their gift. But it's your gift too. It's your gift too. We all need to pitch in. We all need to call them up and bug them. Have you went to the motels today to bring out the families? Do we have that blue bus ready, Pastor Paul? Let's get that thing cranking. We need to pick up these kids and bring them to this church. That's number one. We need to get up and do it. Second thing is we need to be acting like what? We are in a race. We only have so much time to get to the finish line. And before we get to that finish line, we need to have as many children and families going with us to that finish line. Why? Because we want to build this church using the gospel of Jesus Christ and the compassion of Jesus Christ in a way that whenever somebody walks through that door, they know that Jesus is here. There's something else we got to do. We've got to start telling our friends and family about it. Our friends and family are our first outreach. They're the closest ones to us. We need to start telling them, oh, you know what? No, we're not going to the beach on Sunday. Not until we go to church. And then after we've spent the first part of our Sunday with God, then we can talk about the beach or doing other things. You're right. But God comes first in our life. You know what people talk about? Their marriages are messing up or their friends and relatives and things are having problems. You know what? When's the last time that you and your family or your friends have had Bible studies together? Oh, my friends and I, we just gossip and hurt each other. You know what? When's the last time you just got all the guys or all the girls together or a group of both and just said, hey, let's come over to the house, let's have a Bible study? Well, that's kind of weird. My friends wouldn't come over, say it wouldn't work. Won't work. Awkward, nice. It is. But you know what? If you bring God into your friends and your families and your relationships, all of a sudden, those other things that y'all been griping about and fighting about all begins to look less important because now you got something important in your life that you can share together, and that's a love of a God who really, truly wants the best of you. He wants you to have the best of a relationship between Him and you, and that also spreads to your friends and family. You will have a better relationship with your friends and family, and when somebody walks into the church, you'll be able to show them love because you just want to let them know firsthand what God's done for you and how He can help them too. Verse 26 says, therefore I run in such a way as not without aim. Paul knows what he's doing. He's spreading the gospel. He's got a mission. He's not running crazy, going here and there and there. He's got a mission. You know what our mission is? Our mission is evangelism, reaching the lost and reaching the poor. And we do it through our number one outreach is through our outreach in the parks. And that's the way we do, that's our main calling. The rest of it is here at our church services here and the other things, which is ministering to us here. But I'll tell you what, this is not my number one calling or yours. It's great that you're here. You can go to church anywhere. But our church here is called for a specific call, and that is evangelism and reaching people in different ways than just coming to church. We are going out into the community, and we're putting on events, giving away free food. And you know what? We get the criticism sometimes. Well, they're only coming there for the food. Great! Let them explain that to God when they get to heaven. Why did you accept Jesus Christ? Some crazy church invited me for free food. I went there for food, found out about Jesus, accepted Him. Now I'm saved. Yeah. Isn't it ironic that Jesus fed people and they followed Him, and then what? They accepted Him. Some of them. And some of them went away and didn't. But Jesus didn't sit there and say, oh, I can't do that again. They didn't go to church. They didn't follow me. No, He kept going, did more stuff. Just he moved on and kept His evangelism going, right? All right. Verse 26, the second part. I box in such a way as not beating the air. Listen to this. I love the fact he's getting into all these things. I box in such a way as not beating in the air, but I discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified. Live a life that is the way that you are also illustrating to the people that you're reaching. Paul is saying, what? I don't box just air boxing. No, I also have a mission. I'm going after the lost. And what? I'm not just speaking hot air out of my mouth either. I actually live the way that I'm speaking. I live out the life of Jesus Christ. You know, churches, there's times churches just get so caught up in the way you dress, the way you smell, the way the church looks, that we get so caught up in that we don't actually build our church. You know what? How many of us sit back and say, well, you know what? I really don't like a lot of the things around here. I don't like the way my last church was, or I don't like the fact we're not more go-getting. But then as soon as somebody walks in, what's the first? Whoo, boy, that person stinks, man. Well, that person, I don't know, they made a lot of noise. They interrupted the service. You know what? I understand that. I have to preach while people are interrupting the service. That's hard to do, especially when it's a lot of commotion. But here's the deal. If you want the lost to come in, you need to accept them the way they are and preach the gospel to them. You know, whenever that man came into that church, that college student came in, and he began to walk in, and he sat in the front on the floor with his T-shirt on and his ripped jeans and his no shoes, and the whole congregation looked. Remember, this is the church that wanted to start a college ministry. And you have a college student who walks in looking like a college student. Imagine that. He comes in with the college ideas. He comes through that door and says, there's not enough seat. Just like I would do at college, I'm going to sit wherever I can. He sat on the floor. John, one of the eldest men in the church, got up out of his seat and walked over that cane. The pastor looking at him, oh no, and here comes John, thinking, oh, this is going to be an interesting moment. So the pastor begins to pray. As John continues to make his way down to the man, the entire church, ignoring the pastor, watching John come down to the college student. John makes his way over to the college student, takes his cane, and kneels down on the floor next to him and sits right next to Ed for the remaining part of the service. That's how you start a college group. You get down with them, you become one of them. You know what? He didn't go over there with his suit and tie and say, hey, you need to get off of that floor. You need to find a seat. You need to dress better than that. No, he went over and made him feel comfortable. You're not the only one sitting on the floor. I'm going to sit here with you. My name's John. Hi, Ed. Welcome to our church. Amen. Paul says we are to become as they are.